So I was trying to plot a matrix like you did with Tom last week, but it's about my relationship with my mom. Those are very, very hard to do. So let me explain something to you. You are more than welcome to plot a relationship to your mom. It's very intense to start doing this work when it's directly your relationship to a parent. So even though you need work on relationship to your mom, and you can see that you have awareness around there's these problems that you're noticing, and that's kind of the root of it. So the thing is, Karis, is that whenever you start out doing this work, okay, well, let me give you a little background. I don't do direct relationship like that, like my relationship with my mom or dad, until someone is almost done seeing me. So they've been here for like 2 years, basically, and they've worked on other life areas. When they've worked on those other life areas, they're taking chunks and pieces out of what would be in a matrix around relationship to mom, relationship to dad. You essentially you're going to be asking questions that include the opportunities for historical data. So like in the course, you don't have to have historical data to do a waking mind correction. And you really don't. You'll get a result, but you'll get this deeper result by having the historical data. Because of that, historical data tends to focus on parent-parental relationships. So like if you're working on something like work, and then your historical data is going to be about your mom or your dad or whoever your caregivers are. And so every time you do a correction, you take a chunk of triggering out of the mom one.
Yeah.
Okay. That needs to happen before you can tolerate the intensity of doing it direct.
Okay.
This has been consistent with every client because 2 years after I first started doing this, like kind of solely, like just doing this work, I realized I'm like, oh, everyone should just be working on their parents. They shouldn't work on anything else. And so in my infinite wisdom, I just started gearing clients into doing those matrices, and they all started freaking the out. I'm not kidding. Like it like exacerbated them like crazy. And it was like not cool. I mean, like really it got intense. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like making things worse. This is not okay. That's like the one thing that I'm not allowed to do is to make it worse. Every other risk I'm willing to take. But making something worse is something that I'm not allowed to do. That's not right. And so basically, I realized very quickly that it was too intense. Because remember, those people, some of them were brand new. It doesn't work. I wish it would, it doesn't. You have to build up to it.
Okay.
So having said that, I think you should pick another thing to focus on first. Okay? But let me look at your question and kind of go into that and see if there's still something I can help that's maybe not related to doing it with mom. It's just too much at first.
Sure.
Okay. I've written out a bunch of thoughts. I've connected to it, but I'm really starting to link it up where it go on the matrix. Okay, that's actually kind of fun for me to do. I like the puzzle pieces. It's interesting. That's the same thing we just did with Tom's. I've done a couple that I think I've got right in the defective box, but the rest I'm totally stuck with, so I'm not sure I'm doing it right or not. It's just because you have to learn how to do it. You're pretty cool. Is there a way to work out what kind of thoughts go in each box? Like, are there keywords, feelings that make it easier? So basically, one style that works really well is like kind of what you started to do, which is you write down all the triggering thoughts. So you write them down first, and that's always good. And you got results that way. You're able to kind of come up with stuff. And so that pretty much works for you. Mm-hmm. Then it's just a matter of where do they go. And so that's more how I like people to do it. Another way to do it is that you get specific by starting with the box first. So you're like, how am I defective when it comes to my mom or work? How am I closed up? Like you can kind of do it in the other direction. Just you see the difference?
Yeah.
I think what works easier and creates more informed matrices is actually taking some time to journal out all the triggering just in a free flow type thing, like how you made a list. Mm-hmm. Because you can do that over time. And then it just goes on that list. And then like a week later, 2 weeks later, you take all of that and then put it in the matrix, which is what you started to do. And it's actually what I think works best for most clients. It's that. I do have people that they don't do as well with that, but they're challenged to do it because you still have to come up with those data points no matter which way you start. So I would just, and I like that it practices awareness. As far as little shortcuts, so less than, a little shortcut for that is like, I'm not as good as the other person. I'm not worth it. I'm real small and like wimpy, and they're like this big thing. And I'm little. Little. That's less than. I am small and I should be quiet. That's a less than. Better than is like puffed up. Like, you're an idiot because of blank, 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 blank. Or I'm the best at this and everybody else sucks. It's very like, I am way better than other people. I know things that you don't know, and that makes me better than you. So a classic example is like driving. Meaning classic, meaning I've been using it forever. But basically it's like, it doesn't happen much anymore, actually. It really doesn't, which will shock Lynn if he comes back. I don't know where he went. But basically, like, I've been working on it a long time, and I finally have made enough. I have a lot of safety issues. That was like my primary kind of thing, was not feeling safe. And so I got really triggered behind the wheel, like where everybody didn't know how to drive and I'm the only one that knew how to drive. And I would be very better than at that. Like, I mean, I threw a water bottle at someone's windshield once at a stop sign. Yeah. So like bad behavior type stuff. But I really thought that they were idiots. So basically it's, I'm up here and you're down there. So you're looking down. If it's exposed, it's what am I worried about? What's worrying me? If it has the word worry in it, I'm worried or afraid, I'm worried, it's exposure. Always. Pretty much. There's a little caveat there because sometimes it can look like exposure and it isn't, but that's pretty rare and I'm here to help you with it, okay? And so are everybody else on the call. If it's closed, then it's what am I avoiding? Closed is a synonym for avoiding. Defective, you have a pretty good handle on, but that's whenever you are unable to do something and you feel broken.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect means I'm perfect. But there's no such thing, and it's very, meaning like there is no such thing, but also it's very tight. So perfect feels very tight. It's like it has to be this way or everything is, it's got that kind of a feel. Must. It doesn't matter that you haven't slept. It doesn't matter that you haven't eaten. It doesn't matter that you don't even know something, but you have to go talk about it. It doesn't matter. Just go fucking do it. You better do it exactly right. And when we're in that place, our teen is really interested in scanning other people to point out their imperfection. It becomes a priority in that person's life, like where that's like their thing. That's how you know you're really having a problem with perfect, is that you're constantly criticizing other people, which should sound familiar if you think about social media. It's a bunch of perfect and a bunch of awful stuff, in my opinion. All right, if you're needy, I already talked about this. It's an insatiable need that you cannot fill up. You just cannot fill it up. It's like, I need it, I need it, I need it, and nothing's gonna ever be okay if I don't have it. And then if it's needless, it's like, I don't need that, I'm cool. But you're not cool, it feels kind of weird, but you're like, nah, it's all right, I don't need that. And I certainly don't need you. It's got that kind of a quality to it. Is that helpful?
Yes. Yeah, that's really helpful.
Okay, good. For the rest of you, was it helpful to go over that again? Yeah, good. Because it's really kind of like, people can make it too complicated. And that's why I'm like, hey, these words are trying to make things simple, but they can be, you need to still get a feel for it. And so it's, how would you have a feel for it if you didn't? You also haven't watched the course.
Sometimes I still have a hard time placing them in the right area too. It's like, is this defective or less than?
I know. And so that's the thing. It's like practice helps. It really does. Like practice helps, but also having like some kind of an easier type shortcut. And then just being able to ask. Like, in other words, you could ask each other, not even on this call. So you know what to do. And then just don't be hard on yourself at first. Just takes a little bit of practice. It's not rocket science, but it can be a little confusing, like Jacob was saying, because remember, you're learning how to know yourself through the matrix
Yeah.
while populating it with what you know about yourself. So it provides this frame for you to then do it, but then you have to do it to then do it well.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You're like betwixt and between whenever you're doing something like that. You're learning as you do it, and that's how that works. But it's also why it wasn't intentional necessarily, but it's also why people do internalize this eventually, like fully. Like the clients that are finished, they really don't need me anymore at all.